Hello Gemini, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus signs, looking at your connection to the person that you are dealing with and needing to learn the most from right now. We are looking at all three sides of the connection. We've got your energy toward it, their energy toward it, and the energy in between it. The concept being that there are three sides to every story. So we're looking at your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section is looking at what is the deeper purpose of the connection and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. As I do in all of my readings, I've gone ahead and pulled the overall energy and clarified those messages, as well as the overall theme for the reading, which we'll jump into in just a second. But I still have a different tarot deck I'll be pulling from for each side of the connection, as well as the advice deck I will be using to close out the reading in the extended. Any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading with me is in the description box below. Last thing, please remember that these are general readings. They are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and leave what does not. On that note, the whole reading can be reversed. If that's the case for you, totally fine and totally normal. Again, take what helps, leave what doesn't. All right, Gemini, let's jump on in. On your side of the connection, you have Seven of Cups with direction. Now, the way that I view this message is you are feeling incredibly emotionally overwhelmed by this connection. And I feel like it's a whole bunch of different emotions, like anger, frustration, resentment, love, attraction, if this is romantic. And I feel like that bundle of emotions is making it really difficult for you to know which direction to take, like what to do next, what steps to take. Because there might be a part of you that's like, I can't put up with this anymore. I can't keep doing this. But then there's this part of you that's like, oh, but it's so worth it. And I really care about this person. And I feel like those overwhelming feelings are keeping you kind of just stuck in general with not really knowing what to do. Maybe things feel very out of your control right now. You feel as if, it's not really up to you whether or not this connection works out. And I feel like that's what I'm seeing with this person's energy, because they have answers with the Death in reverse. And on this answers card, there's this key here. So the way that I see this is like they hold the key, like they have the answers that they need when it comes to like what they need to do to make this connection work. Being more vulnerable, opening up, not self-sabotaging, all the things. But the Death in reverse is this energy of being hesitant to make change. So not wanting to change, not wanting to do things differently, wanting a different outcome, but not wanting to do things differently. And I feel as if that's been very frustrating for you, because you're like, man, if these things could change, then this connection would be so much better for both of us. Why won't you do that? And I feel like that's why it's so overwhelming for you, is because you see like the potential that exists, and you see how good things maybe could be if these certain changes were made or whatever the case is. But then they're over here kind of resisting making those changes. Now, in between the connection, you have Tangled with the World card. So here's where I feel the problem kind of lies, because you and this person are absolutely stuck in a cycle. And I feel like it's because your emotions, your needs, their needs, your hopes, their hopes and dreams, it's all intertwined. And it's almost as if it's hard for you to figure out like what's best for you versus like what's best for them in the connection. And I feel like their needs and the needs of the connection have almost become more important than your own personal needs. Like you've started prioritizing them more because you want this connection to work, but it's also started affecting you more. And so now we want to figure out how to get out of this cycle, because the overall theme for the reading is karmic path. So there's something very karmic going on here, a karmic cycle that's taken place. And our goal is to break out of that so that you don't have to keep feeling this way, because feeling lost and confused isn't how you should feel in any kind of loving connection, and if you do feel that way, you should be able to clear it up with communication, honesty, and vulnerability. But if you don't feel like you have that ability to do that, maybe this person doesn't listen, or they get defensive when you bring it up, or they don't respond, or whatever the case might be, that's not fair to you, because you deserve to have, a certain level of clarity and feelings of safety when it comes to your connections. Sorry, I'm going to fix this really quick before we dive into tarot. Okay. I felt it slipping. All right. Gemini side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. So that was just the overall energy. Let's dive into the story here. Gemini side of the connection. Oof. Temperance with the 5 of Swords. You've been trying to be patient with this person. You've been trying to, be understanding and compassionate and empathetic and all those things. But I feel on some level, like you don't trust them. You don't trust them to do what's right for you. You don't trust them to do what's right for the connection. And that makes it really difficult because you want them to do the right thing, right? You want them to show up when they say they're going to, or to treat you the way that they say that they are going to, or even just in general the way that you deserve. But like deep down, I feel like you don't trust them. And that it's not, now, okay, yes, this could be a product of like past trust issues that are being brought into the connection, but I actually view this as something that keeps occurring in this connection that makes you not trust this person. Like, for instance, if they come to you or if they do something and that behavior upsets you or it hurts you and you say, this isn't okay with me, they say, oh, okay, I'm going to change. I promise that won't happen again. But then it happens again and you're like, hey, remember you said you were going to do that again. That really hurts me. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, like for sure, I won't do that anymore. But then they do it again. And it's like eventually you stop believing that things are going to be different, right? You get stuck in this cycle of being like, hey, this hurts me. And them going, okay, and then not doing anything about it. And that, starts to hurt you because you start going, well, why are you not, valuing my feelings? Like, why do you not believe I'm deserving of being treated better? Or like whatever the case might be. And I feel like that's kind of been the theme here. You've been very patient, you've been very understanding, but you don't on some level actually trust that things are going to be different because of their repeated behavior in the connection. I actually want to take this one. Gemini side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. Yeah, there's the World. A cycle that needs to close here. But what I want to know, what I want to know is, I want more on the cycle because we have it in between the connection. We obviously have it here. So what does Gemini need to know about this cycle? And maybe that'll just kind of keep coming out throughout the reading. The World here. Okay. Oh man, we're getting just real, the nitty gritty truth right from the get-go, aren't we? Okay. So, we obviously know this person isn't taking action that aligns with what you're deserving of, right? They're not making changes, or they're not showing up, or they're not treating you in the way that you deserve. But neither are you, Gemini, because I feel like there is this energy of, and this isn't a bad thing. I think that seeing the good in people and seeing the potential in someone is such a wonderful quality to have. I think this world would be a much better place if more people saw the good in other people. But sometimes we can see the good in someone and trust in that good so much that we're blinded by the way that they actually are and the way that they're actually capable of being in this moment. And I feel like that's a lot of what's happening in this connection is you see, you're like, you see the good in this person, right? You obviously care about them. You obviously love them. You wouldn't be putting up with this if you didn't. And you see that good and you're holding out hope that that person fully steps into embodying that good. But it feels like the majority of the time they're showing up in as the not so good, but you still are kind of holding out hope that things are going to be better, which means you have completely given your power over. And you've said, I no longer have control over how I get treated. It's completely up to you. And we do that when we love and care about someone. We say, so this isn't a saying like, shame on you, you've done something wrong. I'm not here to blame anybody. What I am here to do is try to get you to see what is within your control. Because it's obvious that this person needs to make changes, because you don't deserve to feel the way that you've been feeling. But you can't control that. We cannot make people change. We can't shame people into changing. We can't love people into changing. We cannot change other people. And when we invest in someone out of hopes that they're going to change, we're usually always setting ourselves up for disappointment, because we're investing in somebody's potential, and that is somebody who doesn't currently exist. And when we're willing to kind of see things from that lens, we take our power back to say, okay, if I can't change other people, what can I do? How can I regain my power and control of the situation? I can set boundaries. I can stand up for myself. I can distance myself if needed. And focusing on those things is all we can do. Because, when you get so caught up in, because I think that that's kind of the overwhelming emotion that I'm sensing here, especially with the Seven of Cups, is like you really love them, you care about them, you see that good, but then they keep doing these things that hurt you, which makes you not trust them, which makes you feel anger towards them and resentment and all these negative feelings, but you still have all these positive feelings, and you're like, I don't really know which one to follow. And at the end of the day, the only voice you should be following is yours, and the one that is, and not your ego voice, but your intuitive voice that's saying, what is within your control. What can you do to choose yourself in this moment? Gemini's side of the connection to the person they are dealing with. Man, Gemini, you really love this person. You really care about them. And I think that is what makes this so hard. When we love and care about somebody, what we want is going to be what's best for them, right? Now, these changes that you're wanting this person to make, the way that you're wanting this person to change, might actually be what's best for them. It might allow them to experience the love that you have to provide, and the wonderful connection that this has the potential to be. But you might be right, but again, it just kind of goes back to, you can't change other people. And other people don't change for anybody else but themselves. And they don't do that until they realize that they need to do that. All right, this person's energy toward Gemini. Because I feel like they know exactly what they need to do to be better. It just feels like they're not doing it for some reason. This person's energy toward Gemini. I knew it. I knew that we were going to see that, because they love and care about you too. But there's that world. They love, I feel like the feelings are absolutely mutual here. I feel like they have love for you, but it's like they stay stuck in this cycle here. And maybe that's the other thing, is like, that they love you, like, they care about you, which again makes it even harder, because you're like, I love you, you love me, like, we both really care about each other, like, why won't you just make these changes? Like, why won't you just do things differently? And I think that can start to feel as if, you're not good enough, or you're doing something wrong, or they don't value you enough, when in reality, other people's decisions very rarely have anything to do with us, and just kind of everything to do with what they're dealing with. Which is why we can't get in the middle and try and control those decisions, because oftentimes it goes a lot deeper than just the surface. All right, this person's energy toward Gemini. So I do feel like the feelings are mutual. I feel like they care about you. Now, here's something. One of the best things I ever learned. Somebody loving you and somebody knowing how to love you are two very different things. Because somebody can have love for another human being, but they might not have the capacity to show up for that love, to experience that love and reciprocate that love, to, allow themselves to do the work that's necessary to sustain that love. So that's something you have to understand is like, you don't want to confuse your expectation with their capacity, because their capacity to love you might be vastly different than your expectation of their capacity. All right, this person's energy toward Gemini. What? Sorry, give me just a second. Let me clarify this. Is it Three of Swords? Three of Swords. Let me clarify this. What is this Three of Swords talking about? They know their decisions hurt you. And then it's like, it hurts them to know that they hurt you. This is, my gosh, yeah, it's like they know that the things that they do hurt you, and they don't like hurting you, but they don't want to they don't want to change. I don't understand. It kind of feels a little bit like a victim mentality, like, I'm a victim for hurting you, and now I feel hurt, but I do feel like this person very much cares about you, and I feel like they don't mean to hurt you. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying like, oh, give this person the benefit of the doubt, accept their treatment anyway, tolerate their behavior. They're doing the best they can. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, I think that when we have that mindset, that's in that moment is when we start prioritizing somebody else over ourselves. And that's where we start to drain ourselves and get stuck in really unhealthy relationship dynamics. What I am saying is that the way this person is treating you, the behavior that they have, the decisions that they're making, it has nothing to do with you or your value or what you're deserving of. If this person is hurting themselves by hurting you, then at the end of the day, their decisions are affecting them. And if they're not making better decisions for them to not get hurt, they're not going to make better decisions for you to not get hurt. So this has to do with their level of being able to love not only somebody else, but themselves. I mean, people can only love other people to the extent they love themselves. They can only care for other people to the extent they care for themselves. And it just feels like this person isn't, because again, it feels like they know the answers. Like they have the key to what they need to do. And it just feels like they can't make the change. Like they're refusing to make the change. Now, a lot of times we have to remember that change is really hard in general for humans. And a lot of people will actually choose to stay stuck in their old patterns and old behaviors because it's actually easier for them to deal with the consequences of those actions than it is to embrace the unknown that comes with change. And that's where growth happens when we look at what we need to change and we actually make those changes. Awareness of what needs to change isn't growth. Action to make those changes, that's where growth happens. So this person might be like, yeah, I know I need to change, or I know I need to do this, but if they're not showing up with changed behavior, they're not actually growing. Nothing is actually changing. And that I feel like is where you're getting really confused, is because you're like, but they know they need to change, and I know they love me, and I love them, and this could be so good if they did these things, but they're just not. And that's obviously been affecting you quite a bit. All right, this person's energy toward Gemini. It's kind of interesting that you have the Two of Swords here, or Two of Cups, not Two of Swords, and then the Five of Swords out here. It's very mirrored. They are doing everything in their power to push you away here, Gemini. And I ultimately feel that that's where, like, the decisions that hurt you, like, come from, is like them trying to protect themselves from ultimately getting hurt. It's kind of that aspect of, I'm afraid of failure, so I'm not going to try so that I can't fail. It's like I'd just rather choose failure than try and experience it. I feel like that's kind of their approach to this relationship, is why would I try to change? Why would I try to make things better if I don't think that I can have a healthy, happy relationship? I'd rather just ruin it now. I'd rather the hurt be within my hands, you know, walking away from a connection before giving it a chance, or self-sabotage that comes in the form of infidelity, or whatever the case might be for you. And that's their thing. That's not your thing, Gemini. That's their battle to fight. That's their burden to carry. Gemini's side of this connection to the person they are dealing with. But let's get some more for what's going on with you here. So now we kind of, it's like, I like to think with like each message we get a little bit deeper into what's going on here. So that's the goal for this reading. Gemini's side of the connection. I feel like you were very blindsided in this connection. Rug ripped out from underneath you. And maybe that's where this because I feel like you're very confused. I feel like this person's actions and energy has been very confusing for you. Because again, like, you can tell they love you, you can tell they care about you, you can tell they want things to work, but then they like don't do the necessary things to make it work. And that of course is very confusing, because you're like, what the hell do I believe? Like, what do I hold on to? And the thing is that, well, hang on. I want to get a little bit more on this Four of Pentacles in reverse, because I just want to make sure I have the right message here. This one. Yeah, okay. And the moon. Oh, whoa. With the Five of Wands, the sun and moon are fighting. Okay, hang on. So, this person has like, it almost feels like two different sides. They have their sun and they have their moon. Which is funny because that's actually kind of Gemini energy, right? Like the two sides, the twins. So you could be dealing with another Gemini. I don't know. But it's almost like that's where a lot of the confusion comes from, is I feel as if they can be two completely different people. The one that's very loving and very willing to make things work, and then the version of them that is cold and distant and doesn't even try. Now, it's interesting because I feel like that same inner battle is being reflected in you here, Gemini, because there is this energy of, I know I deserve better. I know that I want more than what this connection is providing me. But then there's the other side of, but I really love and care about this person, and I don't want to miss out on what this could be. So it's like you guys are both kind of having these inner battles with yourself, because I feel like this person's can be like, I really want this to work, but I don't want to make the changes for whatever reason to make this work, or I don't know how to make the changes, or I don't want to face myself enough to make the changes. And that kind of comes out in them, and then, you know, you have your internal battle, which creates this internal battle in the connection, where it's like some days things are really good and some days things are really, really bad. And that up and down and left and right and hot and cold kind of energy it's going to make it so hard for you to say, okay, what do I do? What's the best decision? Because you don't know what to believe, right? Which is going to make it really hard for you to break out of the cycle. And I feel like that's why you feel very blindsided in this connection, because there's one version of this person and of the connection, and then there's like a totally different version, and you're like, what the hell? It's almost like when it's good, it's really good, but when it's bad, it's real bad kind of thing. All right, Gemini side of the connection. A lot of overthinking. A lot of overthinking here. And a lot of seeing things through, rose-colored glasses. I think a lot of times, see the Two of Wands in reverse, and then you have the King of Pentacles in reverse, and on the back of the deck you have the Judgment in reverse. A lot of seeing things through rose-colored glasses. When we have a tendency to see things see things and people as we want them to be, or as we hope that they can be, instead of looking at things as they are. And I feel like that's what you're kind of needing to do, and like what this King of Pentacles in reverse is talking about is this need to ground yourself in what's real and what's true and what you know. And when I say that, I mean not how do you feel about this person. You've got to separate this, because you have this tangled in the middle. We've got to separate some energies here. So you're confusing how you feel about this person with how they make you feel. And we got to get those separate, because how you feel about them does not matter if how they make you feel is bad. When someone is making us feel lonely or unloved and we can't trust them, and all the things that I feel you're feeling here, it doesn't matter how you feel about them, because you feel bad, and that's what needs to be trusted. That's it. When we confuse the way that we feel about a situation with the way a situation makes us feel, we stop making the decisions that are best for us, and we start making the decisions that are best for the situation, for the connection. And I feel like that's a lot of what you've been doing. Now, the more you make decisions that are best for the connection and the less that this person does, the more you start to lose yourself in the connection. And that's where, you've kind of given away that power, and that's why we want to take it back, because there is something very karmic going on here, right? And we want to break out of that cycle, because anything karmic is incredibly painful. Can't tell. Oh, there we go. Six of Pentacles. Eight of Wands in reverse. Some days they give, most days they don't. The Six of Pentacles with the Eight of Wands in reverse, which is funny because I feel like that's very conflicting energy. It's like the energy of receiving, but then things not moving toward you, or like stagnancy. So one of the best things my therapist ever taught me was the 80-20 rule. If 80% of the time things are good and 20% of the time things are not so good, it's like 80+% of the time things are good, 20% or less of the time things are not so good, you're probably dealing with a pretty healthy relationship. But on the flip side, if 80+% of the time things are not so good and 20% or less they are good, and you're spending the majority of your time waiting for things to be better or wanting things to be like they are, some of the time, then there's something more going on. Because that is you holding out for the good at the expense of yourself, because you're going through so much bad to allow yourself to experience that good. And you deserve to experience more good in love than you do bad. And it's possible. I promise you that it is possible. I spent a really large percentage of my life being in very unhealthy relationships. And that was all I knew. I only knew relationships to be unhealthy. I didn't know how to have a healthy relationship. I didn't love myself. I didn't respect myself. I didn't get it. Had a spiritual awakening, went on this journey. And now I am happily engaged to the absolute love of my life. And the reason that I am so passionate about these readings is because I've been on both sides of these kinds of connections. I've been on the chaser side. I've been on the runner side. And I've experienced what it's like being in both of those perspectives. This side was before I healed a little bit. Then I was in this side after I healed a little bit and needed to heal a little bit more. And so the biggest thing that I've learned is that the love that we desire is often a lot different than the love that we're used to. And you might not understand that you are deserving of more than you're receiving in this connection, because you might not even think that it's possible for you. I think back on the connections that I thought I wanted to work out, and it's just, again, one of my favorite sayings is that one of God's greatest gifts is unanswered prayers, because I'm so glad that the things that I didn't want to work out didn't, so that I could have the things that I do in my life now. But I had to learn a lot about making sure that I wasn't prioritizing a connection over myself. I basically had to learn not to chase love and not to push away love. And it's hard because it's a tricky balance in the middle. All right, this person's energy toward Gemini. And that's why, that's what I try to bring to these readings is just my experience with these kinds of connections and, again, being on both sides of them. This person's energy toward Gemini, which is why I don't think this person is a bad person. I think that they hurt. They're hurting, and hurt people. Now, that's not your burden to bear. 10 of Cups with the 4 of Swords in reverse. It's so interesting because I feel like they really want, they want to have what this connection has the potential of being. Like, they desire that. I mean, every human being on our deepest level has a desire to love and be loved. So they want that, right? But then at the same time, with the 4 of Swords in reverse, it's like they're tired of their own behavior, but they're not doing anything about it. And that's, I think, the most frustrating energies for me to ever deal with, is kind of that victim mentality of nothing ever works out and I really want love, but I'm not going to take accountability for the role that I've played. And, that's where you have to understand, I think so much of the time when connections go wrong, we sit there going, why won't this person take accountability? Why won't this person see how they hurt me? Why won't this person, be honest about the way that they treated me? And we want that other person to take accountability so bad to validate our own pain. But when someone isn't taking accountability, they're running from themselves. They're not wanting to face themselves. They're not wanting to face the reality of their behavior, the reality of what's going on within them, and it has nothing to do with us. And we don't need anybody to validate our pain. We don't need anybody to change to understand that we are deserving of being treated better. And the more that we take our power back in that way, the less that we allow people to hurt us. This person's energy toward Gemini. Yeah, because there's the 6 of Pentacles in reverse. I mean, this is this energy of give, take, take. Give, take. And then when you have nothing else to give, and this person's hurt because they've hurt you, because they've taken so much, they're like, they play the victim. It's like, I feel like they don't have the, I don't know if it's the self-awareness or they haven't reached a certain level of growth. It just doesn't feel like there's any accountability here because there's no change. It feels like a repeated behavior on their part, and then a repeated acceptance of that behavior on your part, which is creating this repeated cycle. And if you can't change their repeated behavior, you can change your repeated acceptance of that behavior. This person's energy toward Gemini. Unconditional love does not equal unconditional tolerance. This person's got a lot of baggage. And I feel like that baggage they kind of brought into this connection, and they laid it at your feet and they said, this is your problem. I have trust issues, and I've been hurt in the past, and I haven't done any healing, and now this is all your burden. I'm going to run from a connection because I don't know how to accept love in a healthy manner. I'm going to manipulate and control the situation because I don't know how to not. All of these things that they have going on within them that they've acquired because of their experience, their baggage is not your burden to bear. And that is why with this Tangled card, you got to separate it. You've got to separate your worth and your value and your ability to be loved from this person's baggage. I don't care if you think that they are a twin flame. I don't care if you think they are a soulmate. I don't care if you think that this is the best connection you've ever experienced in your life. This is not what you deserve. You deserve so much more than what this person is currently capable of giving you. And you are not required to tolerate their limited capacity to love in order for you to receive bare minimum love. You deserve more than what this person has to give, but you are not going to change you know that. That's why you're wanting them to change. You know you're deserving them more, but you can't change them. You can't do anything to make this person do anything different. You can't be more attractive. You can't be more impressive as a person. You can't love harder. You cannot do anything to make this person change because their change is going to have to come from them. Them not changing has nothing to do with your value and worth. So if you can't change their repeated behavior, What can you do to change your repeated acceptance of that behavior? That is the only thing that is within your control and the only thing that's going to break you out of this cycle. In between the connection, you have tangled with the world here. I'm going to pull 9 different messages looking at, which I feel like we kind of started talking about, but the deeper purpose of the connection and the best way for you to move forward to align further with your higher self. And then I have an advice card to pull at the very end. Thank you so much, Gemini, as always, for your support of my channel. I do hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, Gemini, I wish you nothing but love and healing on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Gemini.